On today's Animal Spirits, we'll be talking about whether this is a flash crash or the beginning of the end of the world.
We also get into how Stephen A., the great Stephen A., would cover the not-so-great Jerome Powell.
Yeah, legacy game time. Will residential real estate be the worst investment over the next decade?
Ben put me on the spot. Wish I had a heads up. I didn't, okay? We got into what's our version of The Godfather and much more. Hope you enjoy the show. This episode of Animal Spirits is sponsored by Global X ETFs. Since 2008, Global X ETFs has been committed to empowering investors with unexplored and intelligent solutions.
Global X specializes in ETFs that track emerging trends like artificial intelligence, as well as strategies within the AI ecosystem such as data centers, robotics, cloud computing, and more.
Visit globalxetfs.com to explore a lineup of more than 90 ETFs, along with insights to help navigate a dynamic investing landscape. Welcome to Animal Spirits with Michael and Ben. Ben, how has the Olympics been this week?
Very good. I wanted to get into this later, but the streamers have figured it out. I'm watching more. I could watch it on my cable since I still have cable, but Peacock figured out how to do Olympics on streaming. When they did it last time, everyone complained that they had to find stuff on Peacock and it didn't work. Peacock's Olympic experience is great, and it makes me feel good about the fact that streamers are getting more into sports. They have this gold zone thing that's like 6 different sports at once.
Oh, wow.
If something's going on, kind of like the red zone. And we watch all of our Olympic coverage on Peacock. Have you watched any Olympics?
No.
Okay. The stock market has been just as exciting, though, has it not?
More so. Well, let me ask you this. Was uncertainty yesterday the same as uncertainty 2 weeks ago? Same level? No difference?
It's the same as it is today.
Same as it was 2 weeks ago? It
is funny. The responses we got to that were, Michael's an idiot, Ben's right, or Ben's an idiot, Michael's right. We got a lot of those. You have to admit, though, as being market watchers, the last couple of weeks has been way more fun than the rest of the year was.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah, it's
obviously losing money is never fun, but this is exciting. What was it? 2 weeks ago, we showed this chart from Charter that said U.S. stocks have been chill in 2024, and it showed that there's just been no big moves at all. And I think this thing poked the bear a little bit. It angered the market gods.
You know the Michael Jordan, and I took that personally?
Yes, the market took that personally. Apparently, Japan hates rate hikes. It was literally, the funny thing is to me, you know the dog meme where it's like the really buff dog and then the little dog sitting down?
Mm-hmm.
The buff dog is like Japan raises rates 25 basis points, and the little dog is the Fed raises rates 550 basis points. So you showed this was the second largest drop in the Nikkei ever, I guess, going back to 1970. Only second to the Black Monday, and Charter did another one on this that shows it a little differently. The crazy thing to me here, so this is yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess, for the Nikkei would be worse than anything that happened in 2008, worse than 2020. In 1990, the biggest financial asset bubble in history, as far as I'm concerned, popped, and it did not have a bigger down day than we had 2 days ago.
What do you make of that?
That's wild stuff.
Does that mean that yesterday was blown out of proportion, or does that mean that the opposite? No, this is actually something. Maybe a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. So, I mean, the Japanese market snapped back, and this is how much I've been paying attention. I was looking at the Nikkei last night because it was open. Here's something I didn't know. So it was up, 10% yesterday, today it snapped back. I typed it in on Google, and it showed the Nikkei, and they have a lunch break still.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did.
Okay, the Tokyo Stock Exchange still takes lunch, which the U.S. Stock Exchange did at one time as well. And we used to be open on Saturdays from like 9:30 to 12. I think it stopped in the 50s or 60s. So
what happened, Ben?
If I'm trying to hedge here, this was a flash crash versus this is something real, and I'm melding them both together probably. How about, can I try to come together with an explanation? The labor market is cooling. The Fed did not cut. That got markets a little jittery. And then bond yields.
It wasn't the Fed not cutting that got markets jittery. It was the Fed not cutting and then weakening data.
Yes, and data weakening further. And I would love to see the counterfactual of the Fed actually cut, and then the next day jobs data is soft, if how the market would have reacted, if it would have mattered anyway. Do you think Powell pinged his secretary afterwards and said, who scheduled our meeting the day before the labor data came out? Maybe we would have liked to seen that first.
Do they see that first?
I don't know. They probably do. So, I don't know. It did feel like a mini 1987 moment. And I pulled up the New York Times front page when that happened, and then they one of the stories says, "Does 1987 equal 1929?" And it feels like whenever there's a stock market, and most of the people said no, of course not. But when the stock market falls like this, it makes sense that people immediately think, "Oh gosh, this is really bad for the economy," and even if it doesn't have to be that bad, because we all know the stock market is more volatile. Are you surprised at all? I was asking for a number of months, like, I can't believe there's no more fun blowups from the Fed raising rates from 0% to 5.5%. Japan does 25 basis points, and you see this yen carry trade unwind blow up. Did that surprise you at all that it finally happened now that you saw it obviously a bunch of funds blew up? That had to be it, or whoever, people unwind trades.
Yeah, I'm going to plead ignorance here. I don't know enough about this carry trade, who's involved. Obviously it's big because it led to a massive deleveraging. So for people that are not in the financial universe that are like, what the heck is a carry trade? You could borrow the yen at basically 0% interest rates or close to it.
Right, because Japan didn't raise rates like we did.
Yeah, and then you could go take those proceeds and invest it elsewhere. And then the Bank of Japan raised rates. The yen was up 8% yesterday, I think, versus the dollar. And risk assets tumbled, and that led to massive, massive margin calls.
Right. And the fact that it bounced back today shows that a lot of that was a huge deleveraging in the system. That doesn't mean that the correction can't continue, but that was a big part of it, why it got so big.
Right. I wrote this yesterday that I would the type of sell-off we got, we're always going to get a sell-off. The type of sell-off we got yesterday is way better than, oh shit, Apple missed, Google missed, Microsoft missed, recession, corporate profits are waning. Again, we'll see what happens, but this is not to be too cavalier because it's a real sell-off. I mean, 13% of the Nikkei is nothing to hand wave. But as far as sell-offs go, I'll take it.
Yeah. And Japanese stocks were on fire this year as well. So that's a lot. And sometimes it's a cascading thing of people looking for an excuse to sell because they have gains. And then you add leverage on top of it and everyone on one side of the boat or whatever it is. But you showed the VIX had an enormous spike, like financial crises level of spike.
So Boaz Weinstein tweeted a great chart of the VIX and credit spreads. And he said, we haven't seen the VIX at 50 and credit spreads hanging in this well. One or both of these look wrong.
Interesting. So the other times that the VIX has spiked, spreads have been blown out or they are blowing out.
Meaning that prior times it was more of an economic event than like some sort of exogenous market event. So hopefully it's the VIX that was lying. And, we'll find out. Where's the VIX at right now? It's Tuesday morning. VIX is at 32. So in the short term, it looks like the VIX was lying because it spiked all the way to 60-something yesterday.
So do you think part of it is people have been waiting for an economic event for so long that anytime there's just a little bit of a ripple, people are, okay, here it's here, right?
And bears were salivating yesterday. Here it is. The AI bubble has popped. And I'm not trying to poke the bear because it's way too early to a one-day bounce is way too premature for the bulls to be like, see you idiots. Like we'll see.
When you have this kind of volatility, you don't stake your claim.
Right.
In a month, could we look back and say, geez, that flash crash was crazy. Markets kind of continued up their uptrend, or that was a precursor. And when you see a 12% down day and a 10% up day back to back for one of the biggest stock markets in the world.
Yeah, not great.
That kind of volatility happens when there's a downtrend in place.
Yeah.
Now, if we're doing the context thing here, this is abnormal, but also normal. That the S&P is still, as of through Monday's close, and we're recording this just before the open on Tuesday, the The S&P is down 8.5% from the highs. It's not even in correction territory yet.
I don't think you've ever seen a VIX spike of this magnitude with the S&P not even in correction territory. I don't think it's ever happened.
Sounds
In fact,
about right.
It hasn't happened.
So I did this thing where I updated my numbers. 64% of the time, you see an intra-year drawdown of 10% or worse. That part of it is normal. All the other stuff going on around it seems abnormal, and I guess they almost always seem abnormal. It is funny to me, you mentioned the AI bubble popping. I looked yesterday. NVIDIA had crashed up to 30% at one point. Then it came back. It's still up 115% on the year.
And it is going to smash earnings. All of the mega cap tech stocks have told you that they're over-investing.
Yeah, so I don't know.
This is a good meme. What?
I have no idea. Okay.
Yeah, you have nothing to say. The Starfish tweeted the Ben Stiller a Center for Ants meme, and he goes, "What is this? A market crash for ants?" He's looking at pulled back the chart, and of course, it's but a mere flesh wound for now.
It is. Okay, so yesterday I did let's get into the Fed. So I did this Stephen A. Smith meme here that I created, and I just said, Powell kind of choked. I think Jerome Powell choked. I think he had the ability to walk into the end zone and spike the football, and he choked. That a 25 basis point cut would have been, it would have been relatively meaningless as far as the economy goes, but it would have signaled victory. We made it, and I think that's part of the reason that everyone is so up in arms about the Fed. Is that now they're going to have to do it after the fact and they're late. So I did this Stephen A. Smith meme, and we got a call yesterday to our main line at Ritholtz Wealth, and someone from NPR said, "Can I talk to Ben Carlson to hear his thoughts on the Fed?" I said, "Sure." And I said, "Hey, why did you reach out?" And he said, "Well, I saw your Stephen A. Smith meme. I wanted to hear your thoughts about the Fed because of this."
Did he ask you to talk in Stephen A. Smith voice?
He said it was humorous, so I wanted to hear your thoughts. So let me tell you what I told him. The Fed is always late. They raise too late. They cut too late. Why don't they just ever try to get ahead of something and just say, you know what, the labor market is softening a little bit. It's not in terrible territory yet. I got some stats to back this up, but why don't they ever try to get ahead of anything? Why do they have to always try to become heroes after the fact? That's what I don't get about this and their line of thinking.
No, it was interesting yesterday. All of the major custodians, Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, retail users were having trouble logging in. I understand the frustration because a lot of those users wanted to buy, but let's be honest, a lot of people that were mad were probably looking to sell.
Yes, and sometimes it feels like you and I are part of the customer service team. People vent to us on Twitter like, "Hey, I couldn't get in today," and I agree. And if one day is going to make or break your account, that doesn't portend good results for you in the future. If you think that this one day, you're right, you're either going to panic sell or you're going to hop in there and buy, and that's going to make or break your year or whatever. I'm okay with this stuff happening. I think it's okay when volatility is really.
What? You think it's good that the custodians?
No, I'm not saying it's good. I don't get up in arms about it. I think this is just part of the game we play in. When stuff gets crazy, I think it happens.
All right, I'm on the other side. I think it's awful. If the market volatility spikes and you're trying to take advantage of it and you can't, that sucks.
Put it on autopilot. You want to know what happened yesterday in my brokerage account?
Nothing.
I bought index funds. It just so happened to be that my bi-weekly purchase of index funds in my brokerage account happened yesterday.
Not to brag.
Because I had it automatically. My whole point is that I get why people are up in arms and they wanted to get in there and buy when there's blood in the streets or whatever, but it's one day. One day is not going to make or break.
You're right. Does it change anything? No. It doesn't mean it's not frustrating.
Yes. But I think this is the way that our system is set up. And if there is this huge rush for the exits or the entrance or whatever it is, this kind of thing is going to happen. So I guess one of the reasons people are worried, the unemployment rate has gone up, and Josh had Claudia Sahm on the compound last night talking about this, but her indicator is basically just a 3-month moving average of the unemployment rate. And typically, you don't see the unemployment rate just go up a little bit and stop. It goes up and it keeps going up. And that's the worry from people. Sure, the labor market's not out of control yet. The unemployment rate still is generationally low, but it's like, could it get worse? And that's what the Fed has the ability to do to maybe stop that. So now people are saying, what, 100 basis points this year, at least? Right? I know some people were saying...
There's 3 more meetings.
I know some people were saying like emergency cut yesterday and stuff. That seemed a little premature to me. The counterpoint here to like the labor market would be, we were at full employment and there was literally nowhere to go but down for labor market data. Right? So if you look at labor force participation ratio, prime age, 25 to 54, it is still rising. And it's almost at the peak, like the highest ever level, which was achieved in the late 1990s. So like there are still, I think it's companies are slower to hire and there's fewer job openings and there's not as much movement going on and wage data is rolling over. So the Fed, it seems like they just should have got ahead of it. But Torsten Slok wrote this weekend. The soft July employment report is inconsistent with the hard data for economic activity. There are no signs of a slowdown in restaurant bookings, TSA air travel data, tax withholdings, retail sales, hotel demand, bank lending, Broadway show attendance, which is kind of a funny indicator, and weekly box office grosses. Combined with GDP in the second quarter coming in at 2.8%, the bottom line is that the current state of the economy can be described as slowing, but still a soft landing.
If they did an emergency cut yesterday, I think the market would have actually panicked.
Yeah, I don't think that made a whole lot of sense. I think the Fed missed their window. So now, if I'm getting back into Stephen A. Smith, this is a legacy game for Powell and Jackson Hole, how he handles this. Because I feel like he's going to get a little defensive of, listen, I'm not going to listen to you commentators tell me what I have to do. I feel like that's part of the thing with the Fed. They want to come to these decisions on their own, not have it be driven by the media or pundit narrative. So I think I'm putting it down there. Legacy game for Jerome Powell. He had the chance to smoothly land the plane, and I feel like he missed his opportunity. He fumbled the ball at the 5-yard line. My analogy is they could still recover the ball in the end zone, but they don't get to have the same level of celebration than they would have if they would have just walked into the end zone. I'm not mad, just disappointed.
Counterpoint. If the market is at all-time highs and they cut, this will all be forgotten.
That's the other good thing
and if the economic data that we get in the coming weeks actually shows that the softening that we saw was an aberration, then it'll be all forgotten.
Well, here's the other thing. There are no structural issues with the economy right now. So if the Fed cutting rates couldn't help fix. Don't you think that if the Fed cuts rates, that it'll be helpful to consumers, it'll help to the mortgage market, it'll be helpful to the housing market? Because here's the thing, the bond market has already moved. So yesterday I took a screenshot of bond yields from Bloomberg and it was 3.8% for the 10-year, 3.6 for the 5-year. These were at 5% not that long ago. So the bond market has already moved. This is another reason why the Fed seems like they're behind the 8 ball again, because inflation is at 3%, 10 years at 3.7, Fed funds is at 5.5 or whatever it is. That's a huge disconnect.
And money will stay in money market funds.
Yeah. So they're behind the 8 ball, and that's the problem, I guess, is like, what are you waiting for?
I don't
know. Which is a good place to be right now, and I don't know.
I don't understand how all of us, like armchair economists who are just, we see the data, they see the data, and we all have one conclusion. They have another one. Who thought that they should not have cut? Was there anybody in that camp?
Not very many intelligent people I follow. Is it human nature? I also think there's a piece of it where they even mentioned this when they were raising rates. Remember the Fed said, we can come in and rescue the market if we need to. I think that there's a complex that the Fed has of they would rather save the system than get ahead of it and be blamed for doing something too early.
Perhaps.
I think a lot of it can boil down to it's not the economic data. They have all the economic data. I think it's a human nature element that they're missing. That's the missing piece.
Perhaps.
If you have that much control, how do you not allow ego to get in the way of decision-making at some point? Anything else on the correction?
No.
It is.
Is it over? Was that it?
I don't know.
Market will bottom on Wednesday. It'll go up today. It'll go down. We'll put in one of those, what's called a doji, which is a wick with long legs up and down, and the market ends relatively flat. Puke on Wednesday, and that'll be the bottom. I don't know.
Are you talking about a candlestick here?
That's a candlestick.
But it is funny, though, the amount of... obviously, there's other stuff going on globally, but the fact that the U.S. market is still down 8% or whatever, and it's still up 10% on the year, and the fact that fear got that bad that quickly, that shows how global and how technologically connected everything is in the markets these days, that it can happen like on the blink of an eye.
I had 3 friends and my sister who never text me about the market text me yesterday, like, what should I do? Or should I buy? And if somebody buys, if I said to somebody, yeah, you should be buying today, which is always good advice, by the way. VIX 60, buy something. If I say, yeah, sure, buy something, and it rolls over, you idiot, you told me to buy.
Right.
If I say, yeah, you should buy, and then and they do buy, and the market, that was the bottom, and the market goes up whatever percent, they'll forget that you told them to buy. It was their idea. The risks to giving advice are asymmetric, so don't ask me. If you're listening to this, just don't ask.
It's also impossible to pick the bottom ever. There's never been a good signal of, okay, that was it. That was the bottom, because human nature is running the show at this point, and you can't predict what human nature is going to do. It was exciting, though. This has been an exciting little period in the markets. If that was it, if that was the only big wave or ripple, it wouldn't be surprising, but it would be kind of anticlimactic if that was it.
If I had to guess, was at the bottom, I'd say, I'd give it like minus 110 odds. So pretty much a coin flip.
Getting back to the legacy game thing, I could see the market freaking out again if Powell does not come out and be more explicit in what he's going to do going forward. If in Jackson Hole, which is when, in a couple
September?
weeks?
August?
I thought Jackson Hole is August. So I think if he's not a little more explicit in assuring the market a little bit, I think the market could fight back against the Fed a little bit. I think I could see that happening. So I put this in the doc before everything happened in the end of the week last week with Powell and the Fed and the labor data, but the reason that I thought the Fed should have taken a victory lap is because the inflation vibe the inflation vibe shift is like firmly entrenched now. I don't know who came up with this new meme from Donnie Darko, which I think I've only seen that movie once. I know it's kind of a cult classic. Is that in the horror realm for you or not?
I only saw Donnie Darko once, and I haven't revisited it. I kind of don't remember it.
Okay, I
was there a twist at the end?
Enjoyed it. I don't. That's a good question. I
really don't remember it.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it again. Gyllenhaal's on a heater lately. So it says inflation is bad, and then his mom or whoever asks, inflation is bad, or you ordered a private taxi for your burrito, and he said private taxi for my burrito. And this was someone was complaining about the DoorDash fees on Twitter. And someone dunked on it with this meme, which is pretty good meme. Private taxi for your burrito. And you're always the one who shares the DoorDash experience, so I thought it would be my turn to finally share it. And I thought of this private taxi for your burrito thing. On Sunday night, we were driving home after a weekend on the lake, and my wife says, I want sushi. Pull it up on DoorDash and order me some sushi. And so I did it, and she wants 2 whatever rolls. I'm not a sushi guy, so I don't know how this works.
Oh, speaking of things that you're not. What do you think about saunas?
Saunas? I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion about saunas. I've sat in a handful in my life. Can make it 5 minutes in one, maybe. I don't know. Why? Should I have a strong opinion about saunas? I'm indifferent about saunas.
I was talking to Nicole. I don't know how saunas came up, but somebody, I think Nicole or Sean asked, what does Ben think about saunas? And I said, I'll ask him. My guess is exactly how you just responded was how I guessed you would respond. Pretty indifferent.
Yeah, I didn't know people had strong sauna opinions.
I'm a big sauna guy. I don't use them that frequently because I don't have one. But if they're available, you don't have to twist my arm to go into sauna. I'll go into sauna all day.
I could see you relaxing with a towel around yourself.
I do love a good sauna.
Okay.
Anyway, back to your DoorDash experience.
So I ordered the sushi rolls for her or whatever, and it's like $60 for sushi. And with all the fee. And I have the DoorDash, whatever, Prime.
Dude, the fees on the fees on the fees. Robin got a skirt steak fajita. It was $50 from DoorDash. I said, this is the last time we're ever doing this. I will not be part of the problem.
Here's what I did. I put my foot down and I said, no, we're not getting it.
Good for you.
And I said no. And is it the fact that I couldn't afford $60? No. But no, it's ridiculous. And my wife said I'm being cheap, which, to be fair, I probably was a little bit, but am I wrong? And I said, no, we're not doing this. Well,
because here's why. If you pay $60 for sushi or $50 for a skirt steak, where's the line? You just don't say no to anything?
You have to draw the line somewhere.
It truly is egregious. The fees on the fees on the fees. Make it make sense, Ben. But I do have good news.
They do it because people pay it. People say,
sure.
it's convenience. But it's not only the fees on the fees, it's the upcharge you for the food. The food is, I told her, I said, how much does this usually cost? And it was, I don't know, a 30% markup on the usual prices.
I do have good news on the inflation front.
Okay.
My jet ski insurance went down $53.
All right.
I have even more good news. My beach club is not raising prices next year. How do you like that?
Do they usually raise them every year?
I don't know. I think this is only my second year, so I don't know, but I assume so.
That's good. Okay.
Price hikes are over.
Here's an interesting one. This is from Ernie Tedeschi, who we've been talking about a little bit lately. He has a good chart on real average weekly earnings for restaurant employees. And this thing's stagnated from the late 90s through pretty much 2015. On a real basis, restaurant wages went nowhere. And I don't know how exactly they calculate this because
shouldn't that be? That sounds reasonable to me. No offense. But a lot of these are younger workers. Should real wages increase at restaurants?
They should increase a little bit. They should not go nowhere for 15 years.
Above inflation? Why? Gotcha.
No, I mean, because you think that people at restaurants just don't deserve to have an increase in wages? You don't think that restaurant owners...
Above inflation?
Do you think restaurant owners deserve a return on their capital above the rate of inflation?
Yes.
So don't workers too? Just the owners?
I don't know. I mean...
Jeez. Guy up there in his glass tower.
Hold on. The owners of the restaurants are taking risks with their capital and that's their whole shebang bang. And maybe I'm speaking completely out of turn here, so I'm sorry if this is offending anybody, but aren't the majority of restaurant workers, you know what? I don't know why I'm thinking fast food, but even still restaurant workers, like, isn't there a lot of turnover? Listen, I was a restaurant worker, so there's no
maybe there wouldn't be so much, but look at this. Look what happened since 2015. It slowly started going up, and then the pandemic. So we've seen essentially since 2015, I don't know, 40% increase in restaurant workers on a real basis. Probably the biggest wage hike they've ever gotten.
Yeah. So again, I know
in modern times.
It's not surprising that real wages, again, after inflation, went sideways for a long period of time. I guess I don't know enough about this.
Now they've seen an enormous spike. So if you want to know why this stuff is more expensive, this is part of the reason. Because restaurant workers are finally being paid a more livable wage, even though you don't think they should be. I think this is good news.
It's not good news to the employers, but sure, it's good news to the employees.
Jeez, not a man of the people, I see.
Absolutely a man of the people. I am the people. Dude, right. How about this? How many years did you work in a restaurant for, sir?
2 years. My very first job in high school was as a busboy. And busboys get screwed more than anyone because we get paid out of the waiter and waitress's tips, and they were supposed to give us a certain percentage, and of course they never did. They kind of like, whatever, here's what I get, scram.
Here's my career as a man of the people. I started in a bar mitzvah hall as lower than a busboy. What was the position called? Maybe it was a busboy. I feel like it wasn't. I was running around cleaning people's hors d'oeuvres. I had the tray and I was dumping dishes in and running back and forth.
That's a busboy.
Okay, I suppose. I feel like it was called something else. And then I did caddy. I was a caddy. Lost every ball. Was not invited back. Yeah, where's the ball? I don't know where to go. You didn't see that?
Did you see it?
I wasn't paying attention. And then I was a valet parker for years and years and years. Got fired. We won't get into why. I think I was in the right. And then I was a waiter for many, many years. So don't tell me, Ben.
Do you want to hear my man of the people
And
resume?
I was a cabana boy for multiple, maybe 5 or 6 summers.
Busboy, I delivered furniture for 2 summers, and I was a bank teller. That's a man of the people.
You know, I got rejected from a job as a bank teller. Is that a thing that happens? I feel like that's not the hardest job to get, although it was during the GFC, but still, I got rejected. They said, this is not for you.
One of the worst jobs I've ever had. It's not fun. More responsibility than I should have had at that age with the amount of money I was playing with. All right. After years of raising prices, food companies hit consumers' limits. This is the Wall Street Journal. Kraft Heinz CEO said, we had 3% inflation this year. We're only pricing 1%.
Doug just put in the channel, Mike and Ben are having a standoff on who had the lowest position in the service industry in their career. I was the dishwasher.
Lower than a busboy, yeah.
I never washed dishes. I would have. Obviously, I would have. That wasn't beneath me, but.
Domino's CEO said restaurants ultimately didn't have the ability to increase prices as much as they thought they could this year. In retrospect, the pricing power wasn't there. He said Domino's raised prices less than competitors and slower than the overall rate of inflation. So this stuff is becoming in trend. This is why the Fed needs a tri-mandate, not a dual mandate. The dual mandate is price stability and the labor market. The tri-mandate would also include the vibes in there. The Fed doesn't see the vibes.
I thought you were going to say delivery fees.
Oh, delivery fees. That could be it too. All right, this is an interesting one. Chart of the week from Torsten Slok.
Wait, hold on, rewind. What did you just say? That sounded like a mush. This is a what?
Torsten Slok, chart of the week.
Okay.
Fair? This maybe should have gone in our AI section. 60% of today's workers are employed in occupations that didn't exist in 1940. Which I don't know if that's higher or lower than I would have thought, but people are always worried that, well, AI is going to steal all the jobs, and we're going to use UBI just to pay people to not work. We're going to make up jobs. There may be a rough transition. Back in the day, 80% of all people worked on farms, like in the late 1800s. So if AI does take a lot of these jobs, I was telling someone the other day, the DoorDash stuff, people who work for DoorDash on the side, at some point that's going away and there's going to be driverless taxis that deliver your food. That's going to be, your private taxi is going to be a robot delivering you your burrito or sushi or whatever it is. And I don't know how many millions of people drive for DoorDash and Uber right now, but at some point in the coming decades, years, they're going to be displaced and driverless cars are going to take over, right? I don't know how many truck drivers there are in the country. What happens when this stuff is coming someday. Not as fast as some people say, but it's coming.
In the next 10 years?
I wouldn't say that. It's already taken longer than I thought for driverless cars, but it sounds like the Waymo stuff in at least California and Arizona, it's picking up. I don't know how the driverless car stuff works in a place like Michigan or New York when it's snowing. That's the thing that worries me is the weather aspect of it. I don't know how it handles that stuff, but there's going to be AI and robotics and it's going to displace jobs, but we're going to make up other jobs to go with it. And the getting there might be difficult, but that's going to happen.
Speaking of weather, it's Tuesday morning. We have a lot of our colleagues are coming to New York, and we're going to the beach. It'll be a day on the water. And the weather's not great. So we look to the radar, the forecast. I'm a big probability of rain guy. I don't know if you know this about me. Back to my years as a cabana boy. If I see 30% chance of rain, complete disregard. I don't respect that. I have no respect for that.
I'm the same. It's got to be like 60 for you to really respect it, right?
60 to respect it, 80 to say, okay, we're done. We're done here. We're not doing anything.
It's definitely raining.
Yeah.
So I agree. 30 could be, it might sprinkle, it might not.
So there was a what was the chance of rain over the weekend? We went to the beach anyway. Guess what? It rained eventually for a few minutes. Did you know, I actually saw somebody tweet about this from the Weather Service. Here, what do you think if there's a 30% chance of rain, what do you think that means?
I've heard this before. I can't remember exactly how it works. Explain it to me.
Well, the bottom line is the TLDR is it doesn't mean what you might think it is, which is there's a 30% chance of rain. That's actually not what it means. What it means is they say the probability of precipitation forecast is one of the least understood elements of the weather forecast. Here's what it means. Okay, the likelihood of occurrence of a precipitation is stated as a percentage, and a measurable. Okay, that we know. A measurable amount is defined as 0.01, so 1/100th of an inch or more. The probability is for a specified period of time, which we know about. But here's the coup de grace. The probability forecast is for any given point in the forecast area.
Okay, so if they look at, so when your weather person talks, they're talking to your whole county essentially.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That like up to 30% of the county could see rain?
Yeah, so if you Google where you are, like, there's a 30% chance that it might rain 1/100th of an inch somewhere over there, or in anywhere in the vicinity. What I'm trying to say is, don't be a forecast coward. If you see a 40% chance of rain, safe to disregard.
Okay. All right. 40% of the time works every time.
All right, let me ask you this, Ben. The data's funky. We live in unusual times. Bank of America shows it's been the second longest manufacturing recession in history. So we're looking at the number of months without 2 straight months of 50 plus, which is expansionary, on the ISM manufacturing PMI. You're telling me this is the second longest manufacturing recession in history? Or is the data weird?
Seems to me like the data's weird. This is, that's why like the Sahm Rule thing about it feels like if it's ever going to be thrown out the window and not work, it's this time.
Well, I hope so, because Kevin Gordon tweeted, interestingly, going back to 1950, we've never seen 4 consecutive monthly increases in the unemployment rate without being in a recession. We just saw that this time, and are we in a recession now? I don't know how you could say we're in a recession. Now, if you say that you think that we're going into a recession, okay, you could argue that. Are we in a recession right now? How?
Doesn't seem like it. And again, we're coming off of such a low base that it's hard to tell what is normalization and what is actual slowing in the economy. And I think, I do really think if it is this big slowing, I do think the Fed stepping in could help things. I think that's a real thing. It's not like there's this financial crisis that's brewing that is just building up in the system. All right. This was interesting. This is from the Investment Company Institute Fact Book. There are now 68.7 million people, households, who own mutual funds in the United States. Was 58.7 million in 2020. So 10 million more people own mutual funds, which is surprising that mutual funds are still increasing, which I guess is mostly attributed to the 401k.
All of it.
Has to be, right? Because only 15.2 million households own ETFs. So more people are owning financial assets. This is a good thing, right? I continue to think that, yes. Okay, Nick Colas he said he's been in the business for 40 years. So he gave like his 10 lessons that he learned. I thought these are pretty interesting. I wanted to go over them with you real quick. Efficient market theory does not say that assets are always priced correctly. It says there's no reliable way to tell which are priced incorrectly. I heard this
ding.
He said he heard it from Gene Fama back in B school at the University of Chicago. It's just as true today as it was back then. This is why it's so hard to predict anything at a bear market bottom. You don't know.
You know what sort of grinds my gears? When the market goes crazy, when the stock goes crazy or a currency, and people go, efficient markets. Well, okay, smarty pants. Then why didn't you make the move yesterday? The whole point is you don't know if the price is right or wrong. You may think you know, but you don't.
Yes, exactly. Which is my favorite way of hearing this. So here you go. You don't want to live in a world where the Fed can't create whatever outcome it wants. I heard that from Lee Cooperman at a hedge fund idea dinner in early 2000s. There's a closet industry in second guessing or criticizing the Fed, but in my experience, it's pretty much useless in terms of making money in capital markets. If the Fed ever loses control of the economy, you have far bigger things to worry about than stock prices.
Amen, brother.
Yes, the Fed haters, they want this to happen, but I don't think they really understand what that means.
These people are nihilists.
All right. This is, I thought, the most important. The most important question to ask in both life and investing is, what is your goal? Without a clear answer to that question and a plan to achieve it, is virtually impossible to achieve any sort of lasting success. We always say to clients, we can't give you a portfolio or an investment plan without knowing what your goals are first. right? The whole goals-based investing idea is the big, whenever someone asks, you said, should I buy or sell? There's so many other questions you have to ask before even understanding the answer to that questions. What is your time horizon? What is your risk profile? When do you plan to use this money? All of this stuff is impossible to answer without knowing the goals first. Anyway, really good stuff from Nick Colas at DataTrack.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, wait. I didn't put this in, but let me find this from crypto. All right. Okay, here we go. So someone tweeted out on Twitter, which I'm never calling it X because I hate tech name changes. I think it rules that we invented a decentralized currency uncontrollable by one central entity, and it just ended up perfectly correlating with the American stock market anyways, which is obviously a little tongue-in-cheek, but also kind of true that the whole crypto is really a risk-on, risk-off asset. It's not decoupled in any way from what's going on. It didn't provide you a macro hedge when inflation hit. When stock markets sell off and there's calamity going on, crypto is going to be the first thing that falls because it trades 24/7. Anyway, I thought that was pretty cute.
Not bad.
Kind of funny. And maybe the point is there is no asset that exists like this that can shield you from everything else that's going on. Right? It sounds amazing in theory to say I'm going to create this asset that is totally decentralized and it'll hedge the Fed and it'll hedge inflation, it'll hedge everything in macro, and it'll decouple from the stock market. That asset does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it exist.
Cannot exist. Does
Yes.
not, cannot, will not.
All right. I know you hate demographics, but I think in the last couple of weeks I've seen from two people that we know and respect have said over the next decade, the U.S. housing market or housing in general will be the worst performing asset class of all of them. Cullen Roche and Nick Majuli, our very own Nick Majuli, they both tweeted out and said, housing is, and knowing exactly where they're coming from, I get it. The price increase, we pulled forward decades of returns, mortgage rates are higher. It kind of makes sense. The counter argument would be just demographics, I guess. So Eric Finnegan tweeted this out. This is from John Burns. There were 4+ million U.S. births per year in 1990 to 2010, which is the tailwind. You can see that's the high point. And actually, the high point in births in the past couple decades was in 2007. So I guess since the 2008 crisis, we've just crashed in terms of births. And the demographic tailwind would be my one thing to hang your hat on. Not to be bullish about housing, but to not be bearish.
Yeah. And I don't think that Nick and Colin were necessarily bearish. I think they were realistic.
They were just saying expect the baseline should be low returns. And I agree with that. My counterpoint would be this. And also, what if we just turn into Canada? And the fact that we have low housing supply and favorable demographics means housing prices just continue to get wackier.
Yeah.
That would be the counter. I'm not making a case for that. I'm saying that would be the counter argument. All right. This is from our old Tadas Visconta sent me this. I always talk about the Midwest climate hedge. Like when climate change happens, people are coming to the Midwest because it's going to be so hot in the South because you've had this huge migration of people in the South.
How much do you actually believe that? Give me some odds.
Listen to this. Okay.
Answer the question.
I want to read you the research first, and then I'm going to answer your question. So this just came out this month. It's called the Snowbelt to Sunbelt Migration, End of an Era. So they talk about how for the past 50 years, Americans moved from the coldest places to the warmer places in the Sunbelt. And they say in the last full decade, those migration rates have essentially become uncorrelated. And they say, given climate change projections for the coming decades of increasing extreme heat in the hottest U.S. counties and decreasing extreme cold in the coldest counties, our findings suggest that the pivoting in the U.S. climate migration correlation over the past 50 years is likely to continue, leading to a reversal of the 20th century Snowbelt to Sunbelt migration pattern. Meaning people are going to stop moving so much to the south or start moving to the north. I really do think this is the thing. In the next 10 to 20 years, I think this is going to be a thing.
All right, what are the odds?
The odds are greater than 50%. It's going to be unlivable in some of these southern places in certain months of the year. And
minus 130?
Sure. And plus, I think the water thing is going to be a huge issue at some point too. The fresh water. You should see. I take my boat occasionally, only if it's not rough. If it's more than 1 foot waves, I'm not taking my tri-tune out on the big lake. Okay, no way. But when you go out to Lake Michigan, it's like crystal clear Caribbean water, and it's fresh water, no salt.
Does that mean
there's gonna be wars over this lake at some point?
Can you drink that water?
Straight out of the lake? I mean, I wouldn't. It looks like you'd want to on a really hot day when it's 90 degrees, but
can you?
Probably would want a filter. I'm sure if you're really dying of thirst, you could, but I wouldn't recommend
here's the thing.
it.
Old people don't like the cold and they like the heat.
But what if it's going to become warmer in these places? I'm thinking more of like for 4 or 5 months out of the year, people are going to reverse migrate. Instead of, now they migrate during the cold winters and they go to Florida. There's going to be the reverse migration too, where people from the south are going to come live in the north in the summer months.
That could be. Well, that is their thing. Snowbirds. They go down for the winter and come back for the summer.
There's going to be more of that, though.
All right. Divorce rates. What's going on here? We got some emails?
Oh, yeah. A bunch of people emailed us about this. Forbes had an article. They say it's a bit of an exaggeration to say that half of all marriages end in divorce. They say 43% of first marriages are dissolved. Second and third marriages fail at a higher rate. 60% of second marriages and 73% of third marriages end in divorce.
So still, but 43%, that's still pretty damn high.
That is surprising.
You know anybody who's been divorced? Anybody around our age?
I have 2 friends from high school who've gone through divorces, I guess. So not a huge percentage. So that's the thing. If you think personally, it doesn't anecdotally, it never seems as high as it does in the stats.
Well, also, I wonder are we not quite yet at the age where people start getting divorced?
True.
That tends to happen more in your middle age.
Is that true? Or did you make that up?
The source? I made it up. I think it's true. I don't know. Somebody emailed this picture of this massive truck sticking out of a parking lot. This I know it's not going to end, but it should end. I mean, it's getting egregious. You know the new Wagoneers? I guess they're the same size as the long Suburbans or whatever. They look like they're like 30 feet long.
Really long.
They just keep going.
Someone sent this email and said, I saw this truck sticking out of a parking lot in a parking garage, and I immediately thought of Ben and his complaints about trucks. And this is my biggest complaint about trucks. I don't mind them, but his point in this email was they need to park on the top floor or something. Like,
there should be a separate lot for truck drivers.
You can't try to just push your way into a spot and leave your back end hanging out so other people can't get around.
Ridiculous.
Yes. Here we go. Ben, I concur that people talking on FaceTime in public is totally annoying, but I can't figure out why it bugs me more than just overhearing 2 people engaging in a live conversation, i.e. not on FaceTime. Either way, it's 2 voices having a chat, right? Why does it bug us more when one of them is on a phone, whereas it's less annoying when people are both physically present?
I'll tell you why.
Figure it out. It is true.
Do you have an answer?
Good observation.
No, I have an answer.
I don't.
There's a time and a place. And the time and the place for talking on your phone is not at a restaurant. You talk to the person next to you. You don't talk to a person on your phone. That's not what it's for.
There's a difference in the way people talk on speakerphone.
If you have to talk on the phone, you get up and you walk away.
Yes, definitely. And I feel like the way people talk on speaker is different than 2 people having a conversation right next to each other. That's fair.
I saw something so egregious one time. Getting annoyed thinking about it. I was parked in a car. I don't want to give too many details away and overshare, but let's just say this. Person got out of their car, speaker on, walked over to a group of friends. Friends tried to talk to him, and he gave him the 1 second.
Well,
then, and he got out of the car on speaker. Hey, jackass, stay in your car.
Yeah.
What a D-bag move. To then walk over your, acting all important. I can't talk right now. I'm on the phone.
Do you want to do the living the dream here or not?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Okay.
All right. You think about winners, who's going to make it in life, attitudes. I'm a big attitude is everything guy. This guy has the right attitude. Listen to this email. This is how you win in life. Hey, guys, love the show. I worked at a large, this is an accountant. During busy season, everyone is miserable and stressed from the workload, so living the dream was a sarcastic response to how's it going around the office. Batnick is right. It is a conversation stopper as more or less just a spicy find to a more or less cordial acknowledgement of your existence in a copy or break room elevator interaction. As I grew, I got more comfortable and had friends, so I started to screw around a bit. Knowing the how's it going and living the dream are so rote that any response would really work, I started repeating Eye of the Tiger lyrics to our managing partner as an inside joke with my office mate. During our weekly stand-up meetings, I would reply with a lyric to see if he would catch on. So how's it going? Rising up back on the street, did my time, took some chances, trading my passion for glory until I got to hanging tough, staying hungry. This got such a positive response, I started using it as my go-to when asked the obligatory how's it going by higher-ups. And in passer interaction, this is C-suite catnip. I really do believe it helped me step out from the cock status and a few decision makers' minds to, quote, go-getter. Still use it to this day, and it's still as effective with no one making the connection. Love the show, hang tough, and stay hungry. Listeners, you could incorporate, you try this one hack.
Just pick a 1980s song.
This will help you climb the corporate ladder. Hey, how's it going? Hanging tough, staying hungry.
That's pretty good. I like it.
Somebody try that, report back. It's not gonna not work.
We had another good email where someone had said that they replied living the dream to to a service worker. How's it going? Living the dream. And the person said, nightmares are dreams too. Which is a good way to end living the dream for someone.
That's a very quick response. I feel like I don't know if I can remember that. This next time I hear somebody say living the dream, I'm probably gonna butcher that. Dreams are nightmares too. No, that's not how it goes. Ben, last week we were talking about cell phones, social media, keeping them away from the kids. And I'm listening to you. I'm like, yeah, making sense. I don't want my kids on social media. It's nightmares. Somebody emailed us, a father of 5, and said, father of 3. I told this story to 3 of my girls Friday night, and daughter number 3, who is 20 years old, said, quote, strict parents raise sneaky children. That's deep shit.
That's pretty good.
That honestly, that changed my whole perspective. It really did.
Yes.
Because you know what? I was raised by a strict parent. And was I a sneaky child? In ways. Did I abuse my freedom when I went to college? I did.
Yeah. That the person who's never drank in their life in high school and then goes to college, it's way easier to go off the deep end as that person.
Yeah. So strict parents raise sneaky children. I like that.
That's pretty good. All right. Story time. Looks like you have no stories this weekend, so I'm going to take one.
Go ahead.
So our kids went away to camp for the week. My daughter did a sleepaway one. Our little ones stayed with the grandparents because it was closer to them. They did this nice camp right on Lake Michigan. I don't know if they're drinking the water, but it was nice. They liked it. And it just got us thinking about, my oldest daughter's 10. It's going to be, everyone always says, the blink of an eye, and she's going to be gone to college. And it was like a whole week of just quiet around the house. The biggest thing I noticed is that the house stays way cleaner. Far easier. No kids, right? Because I must have 100,000 miles on my Dyson vacuum. I use it all the time. If the kid's not there, I don't have to use it as much, obviously.
Do you have a Roomba?
No, I don't have a Roomba.
Big Roomba guy. Love the Roomba.
You think it works? All right.
Oh, I know it works.
Thing. But it got me thinking about when the kids go to college, and I'm sure I'll be like a blubbering mess when it happens, but also I think I'll be okay. Like, I don't mind the peace and quiet sometimes too. My wife had a little harder time with it. But you'll have this when you send your kids away to camp for the summer. You get like a mini test preview, because how long is the New York camp scene? 6 weeks? 8 weeks?
7.
7 weeks. Okay. So you get like a test run of this.
Yeah.
The kids being out of the house for a long time.
I think I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. But we watched a lot more movies. It's easy to get a lot more done than, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? We've had the conversation of what do you do? Life is way more boring without kids there and quiet. But yeah, I think I'll be okay.
So
as much as I love my kids, it's gonna be great.
How was your summer? You enjoyed it?
It's not over yet. Speaking of recommendations, kids were gone, so we went to see Twisters at the movie theater.
Did you take George?
No, but we're going to take him because he can go see it now. Good soundtrack though. I'm on the lake. It's the only time I ever listen to country music. Good Twister soundtrack. Highly recommended. I loved this movie because it reminded me of a 1990s action movie.
It was great.
Where it's just like, this is all it is, it's action. There were some throwbacks to the original one. You said there wasn't.
Well,
there was a couple. They had the Dorothy machine at the beginning.
Yeah.
There's a few, but Glenn Powell, again, can't miss. And the reason I love this movie, because it didn't have like any wink to it. Like, we're in the joke. So we also watched The Fall Guy last week with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. And I love both of them. They're great. They were amazing in this movie, but the movie fell flat to me because the whole movie was one giant wink. Like, hey, we're in on the joke. Action movies are cheesy, and so they went over the top with it.
That's like some Ryan Reynolds garbage.
I like Ryan Reynolds.
I know you do.
I know. But this was also a 2-hour long. So the whole movie was a giant wink, and it felt like there was no stakes involved. So I never cared what happened.
Yeah.
And it was also it was 2 hours long. So way too long. So Fall Guy, Twisters I loved. Which the original still, probably just because it has Philip Seymour Hoffman in it, gets the slight nod, but it was close to being as good as the original.
Bill Paxton, who I love, his role in Hudson is one of my favorite characters of all time. You know, I'm a big aliens guy. Was he terrible in the original Twister? I'm pretty sure he was.
No, what?
When he's yelling at Helen Hunt? Pretty sure he's bad.
I don't know. I'm
a
huge Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton could do no wrong in my mind.
I know, but picture him yelling at her to get over it. Like that was not great acting.
It was a little over the top. All right, so I rewatched in the last month or so Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. I do this every couple of years.
In full?
In full. It takes a while. Godfather 2 is like 3 hours and 20 minutes. Again, Godfather 2 is, the more I watch it, the more I realize Godfather 2 is way better than number 1.
Yeah.
But it's a movie that shouldn't work because the plot is actually kind of confusing. Like they don't hold your hand in the movie. It's kind of confusing. It's long, but here's the thing. It's one of the realest movies I've ever felt. Like when they go to Cuba and in Havana, it feels like a real thing. So it got me thinking.
Wait, did they really shoot that in Cuba?
I think it was Dominican. I actually looked it up. I think it was Dominican Republic. That's why I love IMDb. So here's my question. What's the 21st century Godfather? Not in terms of like, what's our mobster movie, but what's like the highest quality movie we have this century? I have an answer. I want to see if you get the same answer. What's the best movie of this? And not in best in terms of it's entertaining, but it's also just super high quality.
Okay. The one that comes to mind, I mean, there's one that comes to mind. I would wish I had more time to think about it, but the one that comes to mind is The Dark Knight.
I put you on the spot. That's a good answer. My thought is Gladiator is our Godfather.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that works.
Because I watched that recently too. But that's why I'm really nervous that they're going to ruin it with number 2.
Well, guess what? They can't ruin number 1.
True.
They can't take that from us.
Okay, so I saw a preview during Twisters for the new Beetlejuice movie, which I think actually looks kind of good. I'm a huge Michael Keaton fan. So I started rewatching the first one because it was on HBO, and it's amazing cast. Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Winona Ryder, the mom from Home Alone.
Who's that guy? The guy with like, does he have a mustache in the movie? The guy with the reddish hair?
Yeah, he's the principal in Ferris Bueller, I think.
Yeah.
So they have that huge house up on a hill, and at the beginning of the movie, spoiler alert, before Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis die, people keep trying to buy their house from them. And they're saying, someone's going to give you $260,000 for this house. And it's a huge kind of, funky house. That was in 1988. How much do you think that house would go for today? Because if you inflation adjust it, it's only like, I don't know, $750.
Yeah, I was just saying $760.
That's gotta be like $1 million house now.
I rewatched it recently on the airplane. Holds up.
It really does even it's such a bizarre
sort of timeless.
movie.
Even though it's a time capsule, it's almost sort of timeless too.
It really is, yeah. That's all I got.
I watched Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, and?
The least good of the reboot, but still way better than it should have been. I'm not quite sure.
That was my thought, right?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure how they're doing this. Just a good movie.
Because it was mostly the apes, the whole movie. It wasn't like a lot of human stuff.
Just a good movie. I watched this movie called Fresh Kills, which I'm not recommending, even though it was decent.
That sounds like a straight to DVD movie.
Fresh Kills. It was a mob movie, but it was about the 2 daughters. So it followed the 2 daughters. So their dad is a gangster, and it followed their struggles with growing up with the dad as a gangster. But there was one part in the movie that made me think, I remember this. Remember when the phone used to ring in your house? Your landline phone? You picked it up, and it was one of 7 people calling for your mom?
Mm-hmm.
Kids will never know what it's like to talk to Uncle Bert.
Oh, that's true. A very awkward conversation.
Or your friends, hey, how's it going? Yep, hold on just a second. Mom!
Yeah, and that was when you were younger, that was always the worst part about having to call someone. So like middle school Ben, when I'm calling like a girl, it was always weird because their parents would answer and it'd be really, really awkward.
Hang up.
Yeah, no call ID. Yeah, hang up
Hello?
until she answers. You would have that really awkward interaction that you never wanted to have. Yeah, kids don't understand that, huh?
I saw a tweet about Trap, which I was excited and then I got disappointed, but now I'm really excited. Hold on, let's see. All right, so Trap is the new M. Night movie. Jarrett Wieselman tweeted, Trap movie is far and away the dumbest movie I've ever seen. At no point does any character behave with logic or reason. The theater openly laughed at it from start to finish. Couldn't have loved it more. 5 out of 5 stars. That's my type of review.
How does this guy keep making movies? 'Cause I know people keep going to see them.
No, the last one was good.
Oh, that's right. Cabin in the Knock on the Door or whatever one.
Yeah, whatever. That was good.
Okay,
Old was terrible,
true.
but
so we're continuing with the Josh Hartnett comeback then with this movie.
I am very much looking forward to. I don't know if my schedule will allow me to get to it this week, but I'll find a way. Alien Romulus. Very excited.
Okay, I got one more here. So you know how people get mad when the Fed does or anyone does inflation X energy and food prices, right? Like how can you say X energy and food prices? But if we did House of Dragon X Dragons this season, it was a terrible season of television. Did you finish it? It was really bad. The finale was not good. The only part of the show I liked this whole season was when they had dragon fights, but that happened maybe 3% of the show.
Yeah. Credit to me. I was so lost that I didn't mind it. I didn't really know what's happening anyway.
I did say to my wife, did they just introduce 5 new characters in the finale? I'm like, who's this guy? What's his story? Who's this person? What's their story?
Yeah.
Why do they do that?
Couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Will I still watch? Sure, but this show's been knocked down a peg or two for me. It's in a severe bear market.
Are you dry?
And I'll still watch.
Are you dry with shows now? I'm pretty dry.
Yep. I don't know. We're watching Hacks again on HBO. I liked that one. Season 3.
Okay.
All right. Send us an email. animalspirits@thecompoundnews.com. Thanks to production staff as always. Duncan, Daniel, John, Nicole, Rob, everyone. And we'll see you next time.